As I dive back into the Wolfenstein franchise, this next entry takes us through events set before the New Order. Wolfenstein: The Old Blood was released a year after the New Order and serves as a standalone expansion set days before the invasion on Death's Head's compound. Similar to the first game, expansions were somewhat new to me at the time. The only other expansion I remember playing around 2015 was Infamous First Light, so I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into with The Old Blood. Jumping back into this game 9 years later, I had a blast revisiting this gem, which offers an impressive amount of content for a relatively small package. Let's take a journey into Castle Wolfenstein and get another platinum trophy for the Wolfenstein franchise. The Old Blood has a pretty simple story, but gradually becomes more outrageous the further we get. Once again, we take control of William B.J. Blazkowicz to infiltrate Castle Wolfenstein and steal a folder containing the location of Death's Head's compound. Split into 9 chapters, the story takes us to various locations around Castle Wolfenstein and Wolfburg while fighting an array of enemies that we encountered in the first game. While the cast of characters is not as large nor as memorable as those found in the New Order, they still deliver heartfelt, frightening, and some humorous moments at times. Getting into the expansion, since I played through it in 2015, I'm going into this playthrough with 20 out of the 51 trophies unlocked. 5 were from completing the story, 3 from collectibles, 2 from nightmare levels, and the remaining 10 were from completing perks. When it comes to this playthrough, my plan was similar to how I tackled the New Order. Play the story all the way on Uber, find every collectible, and complete all the perks. However, the Old Blood introduces some new stuff that I will discuss later in the video. Starting with the story, I cranked the difficulty to Uber, pulled up a guide, and went straight to work. Since majority of the story related trophies were done, my main focus was finding the collectibles and finishing up the perks I didn't complete before. To my surprise, I managed to find most of the collectibles on my first go round, so it wasn't much of a hassle finding the rest. The ones I initially missed were those off the beaten path, but with a guide at my side, finding them was a breeze. As I progressed through the story, I found my 32nd gold item during chapter 2, all 10 letters during chapter 5,
That's the goddamn folder,
and every gold item during the final chapter. Circling back to complete some perks, I unlocked my first one during chapter 4 when escaping Castle Wolfenstein. For the quick turn perk, I needed 50 kills from behind cover, which I achieved in the cable car. Ironically, I don't even think I ever took advantage of this perk during my playthrough. Shortly after, I got my 20th stealth kill on the commander, unlocking Eagle Eye. Later in the chapter, I was on a bridge that was swarming with enemies, providing an excellent opportunity to knock out some kill-related perks. The only new one I completed here was with one of my favorite weapons, the camp pistol. I needed 50 kills with it, but ammo for this weapon is pretty scarce throughout the game, so I had to make every shot count. At the start of this fight, I had a decent amount of ammo on me, and with 15 kills left, I replayed this part a few times until I got my 50th kill. Chapter 5 is when I finished up some armor perks. After collecting 100 enemy helmets for the first perk, I could overcharge my armor, and I needed to reach 200 for a second perk. I tried doing this at the beginning of chapter 5 with no success, but this square provided more than enough to overcharge my armor past 200. I had to be quick though, especially with 2 super soldiers guarding the area, but after taking the right path, I unlocked the perk. The following chapter is where the story gets a little weird. After finding Helga and a file containing the location for Death's Head's compound, an earth-shaking explosion goes off near a crypt, introducing a new enemy type.
Jesus Christ.
Trust me, this is not the strangest thing to come out of this expansion. There is a perk to be unlocked here. I simply had to smash the heads of 10 shamblers with my pipe. Later in the chapter, while fighting shamblers and Nazis, I was met with a choice. But I should probably provide a little context. About halfway through the game, I meet Kessler and his assistant Annette, who help me get to where I need to go while I protect them from any Nazis in our way. During chapter 6, both of them are being attacked by shamblers, but I only had enough time to save one of them. I wasn't paying attention to which side they were on initially, so I ended up saving a net, which I already did on my first playthrough. This meant I had to replay the level, go down the right side through a workshop, and save Kessler.
You okay, Kessler?
Heading into the final chapters, the last perk I needed was from killing 200 enemies with the heavy machine gun. This is a relatively small number, but there aren't that many opportunities to work on this. However, I found a spot during chapter 7 with a heavy machine gun and plenty of shamblers to gun down. While the supply isn't infinite, after restarting the checkpoint a couple of times, I mowed down enough shamblers to unlock the final perk I needed for the Old Blood. After confronting Helga, I fought this monstrosity, which wasn't as difficult as I feared it would be. With a good supply of ammo and health, it didn't take long to bring this beast down. I put Helga out of her misery, grabbed the file, got rescued by an old friend, and prepared to invade Death's Head's compound, concluding the story of Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. Like the New Order, the difficulty trophies stacked, so I received those for finishing the game on I Am Death Incarnate and Uber. There is something else from the campaign that I have to take care of. An aspect from the New Order that the Old Blood expands upon is nightmare levels. If you don't remember, these were available during the HQ chapters in the previous game, but here they are found in every chapter. Starting with the prologue and going all the way to chapter 8, this makes for a total of 9 nightmare levels to complete. The first few levels were pretty straightforward, but about halfway through, they started to become longer and pretty complex for my dopamine-fried brain to handle, so I relied on a guide to get through them. It's certainly not necessary, but I was just impatient and wanted to finish them as quickly as possible. As I encountered these nightmare levels, I got trophies for the 7 I missed before. However, I ran into an issue. Another trophy should have popped for completing all the nightmare levels, but as you can see, that didn't happen. Turns out I have to complete all levels during a single playthrough, and I skipped the level during chapter 1 since I already had a trophy for it. Going back through that chapter and finishing the level did eventually give me the trophy. Now for the final parts of this platinum journey. The newest addition to the Old Blood is 10 challenge maps. Going in, I was expecting this to be some kind of arena mode where you're dropped into a map and have to kill everything in sight. While that was technically the case, these maps just pull moments from the campaign, and you must achieve a certain score to earn medals. It was slightly disappointing compared to what was in my head, but they provided a nice challenge to further hone my skills as I strived to unlock the gold medals, which proved to be harder than I expected. You would think since I played through these already, it would be a breeze, but the challenge came from the strategy necessary to get a gold medal, which can only be unlocked on the I Am Death Incarnate difficulty. Points are earned in multiple ways during this mode. Basic soldiers are worth 400 points, elite and marksman enemies are worth 600, heavy soldiers are 800, and so on. You can earn even more points by landing headshots, stealth kills, kills in quick succession, and more. All these factors create a fairly strategic game mode where you have to do your absolute best to earn that gold medal. Starting in the research center, it wasn't hard to get through it, but it took me a couple of tries after I realized the number of enemies was limited. After utilizing some of the strategies I just mentioned to add some extra points, I got through it on my second try. The prison docks and foyer were also pretty easy once I got the hang of things. However, the cable car platform map is when the difficulty slapped me right in the face. Once I found a good method to maximize the amount of points I could earn, all I had to do was execute. There was a nice camping spot, making the first wave of enemies manageable. It was when I opened the doors and the second wave arrived where I started to get sloppy and died from being in the wrong place or an enemy just sneaking up on me. After numerous retries that spanned close to an hour, I eventually accumulated enough points and made a full sprint to the car, finishing this map. The caves offered an interesting challenge with more stealth and an onslaught of enemies further in. It wasn't as hard as the last map, but I was concerned towards the end when I didn't have enough points for a gold medal. Luckily, I found some Nazis hiding in a small corner, providing me with the points I needed. Paderborn Bridge and Wolfsburg Square were easier to get through in comparison to the previous two maps. I was familiar with the bridge since I played through it multiple times already. Aside from the armored dog that took me out once, I made it through this map just fine with my Bombenschuss. The square had a pretty good camping spot at first. There was a turret which I used to take out 2 super soldiers and some stragglers, but when I was met with a barrage of grenades, I had to fight the rest on foot. At this point though, I didn't have too many enemies to worry about, and I cleared this map in no time. The workshop and the bathhouse maps weren't necessarily hard, but the inclusion of shamblers made it unpredictable. With the lower point requirements compared to the previous maps, I really had to be on my A game to get a gold medal. Even with some good camping spots, it took a few tries to get the points I needed, especially the bathhouse. Once everything fell into place though, these maps were next to be finished. Now for the graveyard, which was a struggle. As the last big combat encounter in the story, I avoided any fights that I could, so I didn't know what to expect here. I will say the first phase was somewhat easy, and I was able to get half the points I needed before reaching the next part. I was nervous going in, as the arena was pretty small, and the fight could quickly become unpredictable, leading to a couple of disappointing deaths. It eventually worked out though, and I conquered the graveyard, unlocking the platinum for Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. I had a wonderful time getting the platinum for Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. While it was a shorter experience, given it's an expansion, the quality from the base game remains, creating an experience that complements the New Order well. There's a fun story with gameplay that is still satisfying to this day. The latter really shines with the challenge maps that were tough but fun additions to the game. While The Old Blood may not be integral to the overall story, it was a certified fun time, and I would recommend it to those who want more out of their Wolfenstein experience. That takes care of the video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. What are your thoughts on Wolfenstein: The Old Blood? This is probably the one piece of Wolfenstein content that I feel gets glossed over, so I would love to hear your thoughts on it in the comments down below. Please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. See you guys next time.